Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Lipchick, and today we're going to have a discussion about human intelligence. I know that people usually come into this lesson with preconceived ideas about what intelligence is. Um, you've heard a lot of different definitions in your life. You probably heard about people being book smart or street smart, and there's a lot of credence to that. People are intelligent in a number of different ways, but nevertheless, there's always been the belief that people have a certain capacity for learning, and that can actually be discovered. And we're going to talk about that today. Okay. Intelligence has been researched since the early 1900s, primarily because this was a time when there was an enormous amount of scientific advancement. The industrial world was taking off, and a lot of people in government wanted to know, how is the best, most efficient way to educate people? Should we have people who can't handle certain levels of education in those programs, or should we have other programs for them? And those are some of the things that were driving the study of intelligence. There are many different theories regarding the nature of intelligence. Psychologists Howard Gardner and Robert Sternberg developed many of the most popular and well-known theories. It's widely agreed that intelligence refers to one's ability to learn, reason abstractly, and adapt to the environment. And by reasoning abstractly, that means advanced reasoning, inductive versus deductive reasoning. There is far less agreement on whether intelligence is inborn, however, or develops over time. There's been a great deal of debate on that. They've been looking for, a single characteristic for mental ability, thought to be the root of intelligence, and this has been called the GFactor. Charles Spearman named it the GFactor because it varies from one person to another. The GFactor is consistent for individuals over time. That is, if your intelligence is measured when you're a child, it should be similar when you're an adult. And Spearman also identified a specific or S factor that varies from person to person and according to one person's different abilities. And a number of different intelligence types have been developed by Gardner. Okay, he developed at least 8 different types of intelligence, or identified rather. One is linguistic, the ability to speak and learn languages. Logical, mathematical. Musical. Spatial, which kind of means putting things together, seeing how things fit. Bodily kinesthetic, which relates to athleticism. Interpersonal. We all know people who are very, very high intellects who just are not very good with people. Intrapersonal, okay, intelligence working within different social groups, and naturalistic, okay. And we're going to get into all of these a little bit later in the course. Sternberg developed a theory of intelligence. And he held that intelligence is made up of analytical, creative, and practical abilities. He also believed that to succeed, a person must use his or her different areas of intelligence while addressing weaknesses in these areas. And he believed that career success relied on more than academic intelligence, and there's a lot to be said for that. There are many brilliant people who don't have the personality to get along with others and, fit in in such a way that they can maintain a good career. The influences on intelligence have been debated. The nature-nurture debate in psychology concerns whether intelligence is mostly genetic or environmental. Okay. Hereditarians believe that it is primarily genetic, passed on from parent to child. And environmentalists believe that it is primarily the result of environmental conditions, that is, how you are raised. Environmental influences are considered to be shared or non-shared influences. Shared environmental influences are environment that is shared by families, making them similar. For example, the family structure or socioeconomic status that you're from. And non-shared environmental influences include experiences not shared by families, such as your peer group, birth defect, or differential treatment. And the non-shared influences tend to be greater than the shared. There's the influence of parenting. The degree to which parents can influence the intelligence of their children is subject to debate, although parents have tried very hard, many of them, to train their children intellectually. It is believed that there is a baseline that is determined genetically, however. Research has revealed correlations to hereditary and parenting practices, or heredity in parenting practices. However, none of the correlations are strong enough to point to causation. So, in other words, there are some tendencies for these things to mirror one another. Children with high intelligence usually come from families with high intelligence. And you can look at the environment or you can look at the genetics, but there's evidence to show that there's an influencing relationship, but with neither of them is the influence strong enough to say, yes, it indeed causes intelligence. Okay, with the postulation that there is an intelligence that everybody has, people, of course, wanted to measure that. The IQ, or intelligence quotient, is considered to be a measure of basic intelligence. French psychologist Alfred Binet and a doctor, Théophile Simon, developed the first intelligence tests. France had begun an educational reform that would allow all children, regardless of social class, to attend public school. We all take public school for granted. It was a privilege at that time. But France decided they wanted the most brilliant people in the best schools. And Binet and Simon determined created a test that measured each child's ability so that they could be properly placed. Binet and Simon designed questions related to rhyming, logical problems, picture copying, memory, and distinguishing between edible and inedible foods. Now, the last one might seem a little simple, but keep in mind they were giving these to very young children. Okay. They believed that it was a test of natural intelligence, independent of a child's environment, that could determine their aptitude for learning. And it was the position of France that these children, once identified, should go to the best schools. Binet and Simon also held that a child's mental level could be calculated by computing the average test scores of children in different age groups. The average test score from an age group was then compared to a child's individual score, and the average score that was closest to the child indicated his or her mental age. And intelligence tests, once they were discovered, were very popular. They spread quite quickly. Often they were used in the military and in public school and things like that. But in hindsight, historically, they caused many problems. There were children who were very intelligent, but for whatever reason could not function on the tests. People with linguistic setbacks, maybe speaking, learning, have there as a native language, a different language. So the intelligence tests, they have a usefulness. They're still out there. They're still used. You probably have taken one, but they're now recognized to have their limitations, and we'll talk about those limitations in the future. Okay, a little bit on genetics and IQ as we conclude. Twin studies have been used to find correlations between genetics and IQ, and they've used often identical twins or monozygotic twins, that is, twins that came from the same egg and sperm and have the same genes and are raised in the same family environment. And sometimes they use dizygotic twins, which is twins that share 50% of their genes and basically have the same genetic relationship as brother and sister. In fact, you can have, different sexes being born twins, as I'm sure you know. Research studies indicate that the more closely related twins are genetically, the closer their IQ scores are. The IQ of both monozygotic and dizygotic twins become less similar if they are raised apart from one another, however. And these studies suggest that IQ is more closely related to genetics than environment. Okay, that concludes our lesson. Thank you for attending, and I hope to see you in the live lesson. Have a great day. Bye-bye.